with our economy. This is what I think. We are going to have over 1 million openings for home health care workers. So if I'm going to use hard-earned taxpayer money, I think we should use it to make sure that people are taking those jobs. That means things like using part of those Trump tax cuts that got to the wealthiest and use them to make sure that we have child care for people in this country so that they can take those jobs. It means making sure that we have a wage that they can live on if they take those jobs. It means we are going to have over 100,000 openings for nursing assistants in our nation that we don't know how we're going to fill. Those are 1- and 2-year degrees. We are going to have over 70,000 openings for electricians. We are not going to have a shortage of sports marketing degrees. We are going to have a shortage of plumbers. Now, I got a little grief from people with sports marketing degrees because I said this. I have nothing against sports or sports marketing. As you know, that's why I'm here. My dad was covering sports. But I just think we need to look smartly at how we do this. So if you look at it that way about the needs in our economy, you quickly get to these conclusions. 1, investment big time in preschool in K through 12, like you've done in the state of Virginia. 2, those 1- and 2-year degrees, which for half the people that get them end up being the beginning of completing a 4-year degrees, making those free. For the other half, that gives them the education they need for the job. Next, for college, what I favor is doubling the Pell Grants. The money that goes to the people that need it, from $6,000 to $12,000, and doubling the income level from $50,000 to $100,000. That's where you get the money. I would pay for it by bringing the capital gains tax rate closer to the personal income tax rate. That brings in something like $500 billion right there. Then, making it easier to pay back student loans. If multimillionaires can pay back their yachts and refinance them, students should be able to refinance their student loans. And this is key for the state of Virginia, where we have so many people who pursue public service, making that 10-year loan payment back program actually work and have it phased in. I would actually expand it to include these in-demand occupations. There's actually a list of them. And the only way you really make this work, I have a 100-day plan. I found 137 things I can do in the first 100 days to jumpstart our democracy, build trust, and by the way, they are all legal. Okay, and I can do them without Congress, but they are legal. And the first thing I would do in the first 100 seconds to make all of this work is fire Betsy Devos. Challenges that you face here in Virginia. Investment in infrastructure. I have a whole plan that's paid for. Trump completely blew it when he did that tax bill without also doing infrastructure. And you know how important that is in Northern Virginia. Climate change. Something that is affecting your state in a big, big way, and it's affecting all people all over the country, whether it's the rising sea level, the effect that has in Norfolk, whether it is the fires we've seen in California, whether it's the flooding in the middle of the country. And making that case from the middle of the country actually is going to be really important because that is where we haven't had the votes. I worked on that first climate change legislation as a member of the Environmental Committee, and you know who was the leader on that? John Warner. John Warner was willing to cross the aisle to work on that bill. And so we were not able to pass that bill in the Senate. That was a sad moment. But we have this other opportunity that we cannot let go again. And that is everything from getting back into the International Climate Change Agreement on day 1 to day 2, bringing back the clean power rules, day 3, the gas mileage standards, day 4, 5, and 6, introducing sweeping legislation on energy efficiency and putting a price on carbon, but making sure the dividends go back to the people that need it, with incentives in the areas of the country that are going to see changes in jobs. And on day 7, we will rest. No, we won't rest. But anyway, we can do this, and any area of the country, in Virginia, where you have invented so many things and understand the value of technology, we simply have to put these incentives in place and do it in a way that works for everyone, and I know that we can get this done. So these are, thank you, these are these challenges, but to meet any of them, we've got to win. We have to win, and we just cannot eke by a victory at 4 in the morning. That will be sweet, I know, that'll be good. But we cannot do that because our rule of law cannot tolerate a president that thinks he's above it. Our democracy cannot tolerate another 4 more years of a political party and a president that thinks they can bulldoze through it. And our American dream cannot tolerate 4 more years of a president who thinks he can choose who lives it. That is our challenge. That is our challenge. And by the way, for a state that takes responsibility for things way, way back in our country's history, that understands the value of that history and the value of actually taking responsibility in your leaders, you get that in such a big way. We cannot tolerate a president that doesn't take any responsibility. He blames everyone for everything. He blames Barack Obama. He blames the generals that he commands. He blames the head of the Federal Reserve that he appointed. He blames the entire city of Baltimore. Or my personal favorite, he blames the entire kingdom of Denmark. Who does that? He does that. He does. I started saying that in New Hampshire, and a weird cult of Danes would follow me around with flags. And we must continue to be the beacon of democracy for the world. And that is going to mean in a state that so values, I think of the great work of my good friend Mark Warner, who has stood up from the very beginning and calling it out on the intelligence side. That means actually renegotiating ourselves back into international agreements. We've got the New START treaty with Russia. That's going to come up right away in a new president's term. It means renegotiating ourselves back into the Iranian agreement when this president has made us so much less safe. It means standing up, and actually when you're going to make threats, there's that old saying in foreign policy, keep your promises and keep your threats. This president does neither. As I noted in the debate, he goes off and thinks he can just have a hastily called summit with Kim Jong-un and thinks with no deliverables and no allies at our side that he's going to produce something. Of course he doesn't. They're still launching missiles. So the key to all of this, I have this Council on Foreign Relations speech you should watch about the 5 R's. Oh, thank you, one person who saw it. Renewing our leadership around the world. That is repairing our alliances instead of standing with tyrants, to stand with our allies. Renegotiating ourselves back into these international agreements. It is about responding appropriately to threats around the world instead of sending out tweets at your bathrobe, in your bathroom at 4 a.m. And it means reasserting American values. But actually it can just sum down to one simple R, returning to sanity in our foreign policy. Cheering this much for foreign policy. Yes. Okay, so to do this, as I said, we need to win big. And you know I come with the receipts. What does this mean? I have won every race, every place, every time. I am the only one. since all those guys boast on the stage, I'm the only one that's won every race all the way back to 4th grade. When my slogan that I've since abandoned was all the way with Amy Kay. Not going to use that anymore. I have won in those, I know, well, it could be viral. I guess I need that, because if you act sane in the debates and actually answer the questions, then you can't, oh, well, never mind.
I love you, Amy!
What I'm saying here is this, is that I have won in those rural districts that are so key, not just in the national front, but in the legislative front here in Virginia. And I've won in those suburban districts. I have won every single time, including when I ran against a congressman in Michelle Bachman's district. And I do it by not selling out on our values. I do it by actually meeting with people, listening to them, and then getting things done. And respecting the fact that, yes, we are going to have major disagreements and you have to stand your ground, especially in the world of Mitch McConnell, yes. But you also have to work with people that may have different beliefs than you, and you have to find that common ground, because courage right now is no longer just standing in the corner of a boxing ring, pushing out jabs, pushing out rhetoric, pushing out speeches. Courage is whether or not you're willing to stand next to someone you don't always agree with for the betterment of this country. That is courage. That is courage. And, you know, that is why when we were asked on the debate stage about the coronavirus, which I'm sure there'll be a lot of research going on in this state, and there'll be a lot of work, and this is a really serious matter. As I said 3 days ago when I said the president should address the nation, that this shouldn't be politicized, when I said he should come out with an exact amount of money that he needs right now, which he still has defied responsibility and not done that, when I said that we shouldn't have peeled back, as he did, some of the work that was doing across the world on pandemics and the like, that we should be planning ahead. But what I did say is that still, we're going to have to do this as a team, our country. We are. And so instead of giving out my own website, okay, amyklobuchar.com, I gave out the CDC website on national TV, because like Northern Virginia, I believe in science. And I don't think we should be squelching people or stopping them from putting out the science and the facts and the truth so we can make good decisions about how we're going to handle this. So these stakes are high. So my argument is this. I have won in these districts, and I've won them by simply telling the truth and looking people in the eye and bringing them with me. That's how I've done it. I've always told them, if you are tired of the extremes in our politics, I've said this now, and you're tired of the noise and the nonsense, you have a home with me. And as I sat through that impeachment hearing till late at night, not the result that I wanted, but I saw the incredible courage of my friend Doug Jones and Mitt Romney and how they voted. Everyone's talking about the Founding Fathers. I felt like I was, in the middle of Virginia, and they're talking about the Founding Fathers, and I kept looking at my colleagues, and after a while, late at night, sort of bleary-eyed, they started to look like Founding Fathers. But I thought about all of this incredible courage of so many of our Founding Fathers and of our presidents of the past. And I thought of the story of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who is so beloved because he got us through one of the worst times in our country's history. And when he died, they put his body on a train, and they took the train from Georgia to Washington, D.C., and people spontaneously lined the tracks, including a guy who was sobbing with his hat in his hand. And a reporter says, "Sir, do you mind me asking, did you know the president?" And the guy says, "No, I didn't know the president, but the president knew me. He knew me." In this state that understands history, that is what's missing right now with this guy in the White House. He doesn't have that sense of empathy. He cannot put himself in the shoes of the people of this country because he is always thinking about himself. And so I can promise you this. If you or someone in your family is figuring out how to stretch your paycheck to pay for your mortgage or your rent or the rent for someone in your family, I know you and I will fight for you. If you're trying to figure out how to pay for the long-term care for your parents and child care or college for your kids, I know you and I will fight for you. If you cannot figure out, should I fill the prescription drug for insulin or should I fill the refrigerator for someone else or a friend, I know you and I will fight for you. That is what a president should do. Be able to have that sense of empathy and then take that empathy and put it into leadership to unite our nation. I am not going to be able to outdivide the divider in chief, but I promise you this, I will beat him in a big way. Toughness and the nimbleness, as you've seen on the debate stage, to take him on, but mostly I will restore the sacred trust between the president and the people of this country. Because I don't want to be the president for half of America. I want to be the president for all of America. Thank you.
Job, but I, good God, sometimes I hate this business. It's all love, like